right, so this slide, you're kind of like using pictures to make a sentence. And I'm going to refresh your memory where we were yesterday. I talked about the most susceptible ecosystems that are affected by global warming, and coral reefs is one of them. So let's talk about what's happening with coral reefs that are linked to global warming or climate change, and because they're, again, the most diverse part of the marine biome, which makes up 70% of Earth. Important, obviously, for everything, and we want to understand what's happening. So what happens when we have climate change or global warming? Fill in the blanks, starting over here and moving this way. What happens to temperatures? They rise. So we've got increasing temperatures, right? Because global warming is the warming of Earth. What else happens? What happens to CO2? It increases. We have excess CO2 in our atmosphere, which actually gets dissolved in our oceans, because we know CO2 in the atmosphere directly dissolves into the ocean. We learned that during the carbon cycle. Now I want you to draw an arrow, because this is going to go with this, and this is going to go with this, but both of them make this happen, okay? So what happens with increasing temperatures in a water, in a body of water? Nope. As temperatures increase, what happens in the water? There's pictures to guide you. Thank you. Dissolved oxygen levels drop, because the warmer, the less dissolved oxygen, okay? What happens if you have excess dissolved oxygen, carbon dioxide in the water? Look at the picture. Good. The pH drops as well, so it becomes more acidic. So you have more acidic waters, you have less dissolved oxygen in waters, and Michael, as you said, that leads to coral bleaching, which is basically death of the coral, in a sense. You look at bleached coral and you won't see any diversity, because it stunts their ability to grow and it increases their chances of acquiring diseases. So basically the coral begins to die. So that's one scenario of climate change or global warming. Two things happening that lead to coral bleaching. Now, what happens here, believe it or not, right here, is going to lead to this, which will lead to this. So there's going to be another link, okay? So let's fill in these blanks. What's happening here? What else is a direct result of global warming that happens? Yeah, extreme weather, good. Extreme weather, or in this case, we're referencing really strong storms, hurricanes, a lot of thunderstorms, right? Tsunamis. Well, tsunamis, no. Tsunamis are earthquake driven. Just think of storms coming from the troposphere. What happens to fill in the coral with strong storms?
They die.
Let's not say they die. What's going to happen? A coral that's involved in a heavy storm will be what? Damaged. Good. Okay, which obviously can lead to death, but they're going to get damaged. They're going to lose pieces, break off pieces. They're going to, basically be destroyed at the end, but let's work it up in spurts. And then also, weather can also cause what? Good. Excess runoff. And when you have runoff, what's running off? Water with nutrients on land, which can be sulfur, which can be phosphorus, which could be nitrogen. If it's nitrogen and phosphorus, what's it going to lead to? Algae bloom, which is a result of the process called eutrophication. Also, we could say increased pollution. Now, I was very vague here. But pollution, if you have excess sulfur in a water, know that the increased runoff of nitrogen and phosphorus leads to eutrophication. If it's sulfur, I want you to know sulfur leads to acid waters, which is going to mean lower pH. I guess I'm not in any color here. Lower pH. What's happening? Okay. Let's try purple. Lower pH, and then coral bleaching, okay? Eutrophication leads to less dissolved oxygen, which also leads to coral bleaching. So I'm going to say it again. So the same way increased temperatures cause less dissolved oxygen, cause coral bleaching. If you have storms which increase the runoff of nitrogen and phosphorus, eutrophication leads to less dissolved oxygen, which leads to coral bleaching. If you have runoff of sulfur, you're going to have lower pH levels because sulfur, write that down if you don't know, sulfur makes water acidic. We learned that during the acid rain part of this unit, which means the pH is lower, which means coral bleaching will occur too. So it's not just the warming temperatures and the carbon dioxide being dissolved. Even storms can lead to the coral dying because of these runoff of excess nutrients. That was tough. It's like tongue-tied.
So when it like rains over water, it could cause like.
I wouldn't say rain. I would say waves crashing because of heavy wind and hurricanes and storms causing the corals to be damaged is one thing. You have excess rain over land, saturated amounts of water. Then you could have runoff of nutrients that can end up in a body of water and lead to pollution, which can damage coral.
My question was about like if it rains, there's like acid in the ocean.
Yes. There's specific in the ocean. I wouldn't say so much has happened as much as in a lake. Okay, it's that the ocean is so vast and so easily dissolved and changed from its own, like it kind of regenerates itself, I would say. So little drops of rain, it would have to be like a storm of acid rain for a significant amount of time directly on a coral reef or something. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I feel like negativeness. So there has to be a light at the end of the tunnel. So global warming is real. Climate change is real. We've got problems. And the goal of this class is to recognize that those problems exist and to recognize that there's small things you could do in your life. We talked about this when we introduced environmental science on the first couple of weeks of school. We can make changes. How can we stop global warming? What do you think you could do? That's for sure. If we reduce the burning of fossil fuels, we're going to reduce what? So we're going to reduce emissions of carbon dioxide, which is a what? Greenhouse gas. Burning fossil fuels produces greenhouse gases. The number one greenhouse gas of concern. It also produces nitrous oxide, which is another major greenhouse gas of concern. Industrialized farming produces methane. Okay, so we've got a problem. All right. How can we reduce greenhouse gases? How can we reduce burning fossil fuels? Do you want air conditioning and electricity in your home?
Yes.
Yes. It's not like I'm not gonna use air. So what can we do?
Shift to natural.
Shift. We gotta figure out a way to use resources that will not emit greenhouse gases. Okay? And we've done this. Our first shift away from fossil fuels. Does anybody know what it was? That produce no greenhouse gases. No solar, no wind, nothing beautiful. Nope. So when we realize, number one, we're running out of fossil fuels, and number two, we have a serious problem called global warming, we said, why don't we do this to produce electricity? Anybody know what it is? We have one in between the Keys and Miami. That produces electricity. Nuclear.
Oh, nuclear.
Was that a genius idea or what?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Nuclear.
How does that work?
Oh, you're going to learn. Not smart at all, I think. All right, what else can we do?
Oh, so that's bad. Nuclear.
What else can we do? So we got to stop burning fossil fuels. We got to think of alternative sources of energy, especially ones that are renewable so we don't have to suffer when they run out. What else can we do? What can you do in your home that can help reduce the amount of burning of fossil fuels? Well, we got that. Besides that, turn off lights. So prevention. What else? We've talked about this. No. Yes, but yes.
Consumption.
Okay, how do you save energy? What are things you could do in your home to save energy besides not using it? I'll pause. Increasing efficiency. That means you have a 20-year-old air conditioning unit, get a new one that actually uses less to produce more. Same thing with your refrigerators, same thing with your light bulbs, right? Energy efficiency reduces waste, so you use less. What else can we do to stop global warming? There's pictures. Thank you. Slow population growth. We always have to remember that the number one leading cause to all environmental problems is overpopulation. So if as sad as it sounds, if you reduce population, you reduce the use of fossil fuels, right? What else can you do? Thank you. Stop cutting down the forest, which take away carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which means they're taking away a greenhouse gas.